We begin with breaking news from the Liberal leadership race. CBC News has learned that a joint Liberal committee has voted unanimously to disqualify Ruby Dhalla from the competition for multiple violations of party finance rules. The decision was just made last hour by the party's Leadership Vote Committee and its Financial Committee, and a source tells CBC News that Dhalla faced allegations of 12 violations of the party's leadership rules. Those allegations include accepting donations from a corporation in the form of payments to campaign staff. Dhalla is also accused of failing to disclose the involvement of a non-Canadian citizen in her campaign, which the party alleges would have amounted to foreign interference if this level of involvement had happened during an election period. At the start of this committee meeting, Dhalla presented her case to the committee and denied any wrongdoing. Earlier this week, the Liberal Party sent Dhalla a series of questions related to irregularities involving at least $21,000 in contributions to her campaign. This came after multiple maximum donations were made and processed on the same credit card. And that money was held back while the party investigated whether the 12 donors connected to those donations had breached the contribution limits. Now, I spoke to Dhalla earlier today before this decision was made and asked her whether the concerns are related to foreign interference.
I unfortunately cannot comment on these questions that were sent because it is an internal party matter. But what I can say when it comes to foreign interference, it is certainly not the case. And I will not allow anyone to label me because I am of an Indian ethnicity. I will not allow anyone to label any immigrant, for that matter, in Canada with the airbrush of foreign interference. It is unacceptable. I realize that my candidacy in the Liberal Party is historic. I am one of the first immigrants and first, women of color running for the leadership of the party, and also to become Prime Minister of Canada. I think that painting individuals from ethnic backgrounds, from cultural communities with the airbrush of foreign interference is simply unacceptable, and it will not be tolerated.
Well, the Liberal Party would not say specifically what questions you were asked, at least publicly, but they did say the questions were not about foreign interference. But you have expressed support for Narendra Modi in the past. Do you think this is the basis of the concern here that led to these initial reports?
I'm running to become Prime Minister of Canada. My loyalty is to Canada, to Canadians. That is why my campaign has been focused talking about issues that really require results, from the leadership of our country, the issues of affordable housing and the increase in crime rates and the threat that we're facing from our U.S. neighbors. I have been focusing on what is required for Canada, for Canadians, and that has been the whole premise and the foundation for my leadership campaign.
Right, but you have close ties to Narendra Modi's party, right? You did help his party in state legislature elections in 2017. You've posted support for Mr. Modi on your social media platforms in the past. Now, all of that predates the allegations that have been made about agents of the Indian government being involved in extrajudicial killings on Canadian soil. So I wonder, Ms. Dhalla, do you still maintain your support for Narendra Modi and his party, or has your view on that shifted with the credible claims in Canada and the United States that his government has been involved in some bad things?
150% it shifted. When I was first elected in 2004 as a member of Parliament in Canada from the riding of Brampton-Springdale, my election was historic, not only in Canada, but throughout the world. I was the first woman of Indian origin ever elected in the entire Western world as a member of Parliament. Subsequent, after the years of being elected, I have done a lot of work with the Indian diaspora, both here in Canada and globally as well. The allegations that have come to light that were made about interference by India in Canada, I can tell you my commentary on that is I am here to secure the safety of Canadians. I'm here to protect Canadians. I'm here to defend, our country. I was born and raised in Canada, and my priority, my value system has always been to focus on Canadians in Canada. I don't think because of the fact that I have known, any type of political officials in the back that should be misconstrued, and neither should I ever be labeled as that being foreign interference. It's unacceptable, it's wrong, and I simply will not allow it because it will send the wrong message to other immigrants in our country who want to run for positions of leadership.
And I'm certainly not trying to suggest that you are, an agent of a foreign government with my question. I wanted to give you a chance to respond to it, and that's why I asked about your your past support of Modi. So you say it's shifted 150%. Does that mean you no longer support Narendra Modi and his government based on what we've learned, or what has been credibly accused of his government in the past couple of years?
I can only comment on the fact that my loyalty and my sole focus is on Canadians. It is on Canada, of ensuring that we secure, Canadians have all the security that they need, that we defend Canadians, and that Canadians are protected from any type of foreign interference.
Okay, so after giving that defense, I asked Ruby Dhalla why $21,000 in campaign donations drew concerns from the Liberal Party.
The issue of $21,000 that you identified has been an administrative issue in regards to a link of how the people had donated. I believe that has been subsequently rectified. I will be getting an update shortly as to the exact status of that, but it was simply an administrative issue for those donations that has been blown out of proportion.
Okay, so it's not going to stop you from meeting the $350,000 requirement to get into the race, and there's no risk of in your view, there's no risk of disqualification over these irregularities.
Well, it should not be, because every single irregularity that has been brought forward has been related to administrative matters. It has been rectified,
right.
And I can tell you there was two irregularities identified. One was in regards to this $21,000. Also for transparency, there were 6 couples. I believe that a total of 12 people who donated on the same credit card. They are husband and wives, so they are spouses with a joint bank account. Elections Canada does allow, for that particular type of donation to take place, as long as an attestation, has been done, and that was done.
But all 12 on one credit card, Ms. Dhalla?
Is in compliance.
All 12 on one credit card? I could understand a couple using the same credit card. Six separate people. Six couples. Six
couples, yes. So 6 separate.
And each couple using their own credit card, not the same credit card. This is what you're saying.
That's correct. That's correct, yeah.
Now, Dhalla has been a controversial figure in this race, launching direct attacks on her competitors and promising a big shake-up to some Liberal policy. So I spoke to Dhalla about some of her policy pitches, including her plan to withdraw Canada from the Paris Climate Accord.
Every leadership candidate has their own vision, and my vision is to ensure that I start focusing on the citizens of our country versus, all of the foreign conflict investments that we're making, or many of the other international agreements which we're signatory to, which actually need to be reviewed. My focus is going to be on the citizens of Canada. We have people that do not have jobs in our country. We have people who do not have a roof over their head. My constituency is speaking to those individuals who are living hand to mouth and struggling to make ends meet. That is the constituency that I am talking to with these progressive ideas, who want us and want the government and want the party to start focusing on issues here at home versus taking care of our neighbor's backyard.
But you talk about foreign conflicts. That sounds like Ukraine to me. Does this mean you would end Canadian support for Ukraine or reduce Canadian support for Ukraine? How should I interpret that comment you just made?
I think it is to do a reevaluation. A few weeks ago, or actually last week, we had President Trump, meet with a Russian president in regards, to the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, and Ukraine was not invited to the table.
Right.
When I did my interview in the United States, I actually said that as Prime Minister, I would invite, President Trump along with the Ukraine and Russian leadership to Canada to ensure that Ukrainians and Ukraine are actually included in this very, very important dialogue. I did not agree with having Ukraine shut out of the discussions, about an issue that is actually affecting and impacting them. But I believe as a government, we need to do a complete review of our foreign spending to ensure we reprioritize our dollars to start investing right here at home on very important social programs and issues that many Canadian families are being impacted by.
So the current position of with Ukraine for as long as it takes would not be the position you would hold as leader, because that is what the allies of Ukraine have said, with the notable exception of Donald Trump since he returned to the White House. Is that what you're now saying, that the unlimited support that has been offered to Ukraine would no longer be unlimited?
Well, nothing can last forever. I think the whole point is to empower them, to give them the resources to be able to build back up and get them up and running on their 2 feet. Okay.
And you said you would invite Vladimir Putin to Canada to do a negotiation? Am I understanding that correct?
I would want Russia, I would want Ukraine, the people of Ukraine to actually be included in those discussions. So that's why I think it is very important. You know, we have Russia and the United States of America making decisions for Ukraine, about Ukraine, without having the Ukrainian voice at the table. Everyone needs to come together to sit down and actually negotiate a deal. But for that negotiation, Ukraine and the Ukrainian leadership needs to be at that table.
Okay, a reminder, that interview was conducted earlier this afternoon, before we learned of the meeting happening this afternoon to decide whether Dhalla should have been disqualified from the Liberal leadership race. She has been unanimously kicked out of the race after findings that there were 12 violations of the party's leadership rules. Those allegations include accepting donations from a corporation in the form of payments to campaign staff. Dhalla was also accused of failing to disclose the involvement of a non-Canadian citizen in her campaign, which the party alleges would have amounted to foreign interference if this level of involvement had happened during an election period. Now, Ruby Dhalla has just tweeted saying, "I have seen the CBC News report alleging financial irregularities in my campaign. My response is simple. These allegations are fabricated, fictitious, and fake, and yet another attempt by unknown sources to have me removed from the debate and the ballot." Dhalla goes on to say a couple used their joint account credit card to make 2 donations for both the husband and the wife. This is entirely legal. The party withheld their donations while the required attestations were completed. Those were then submitted to Elections Canada. In the hundreds of donations that were received, this occurred 6 times. This is not a violation, she says. My campaign bears no responsibility for the donations of hardworking Canadians who believe in my campaign and my vision for Canada. Another fabricated violation. Now, we'll continue to track the fallout of the results of this meeting and bring you the latest on reaction to the decision. And Ruby Dhalla is, of course, welcome to rejoin us at any point between now and 7 p.m. Eastern Time to give her side of this and her reaction to the decision from the Liberal Party.